Jung's most unsettling discovery wasn't about people who struggled with anger, but about those who never seemed to get angry at all. He found individuals who were completely unshaken by insults, criticism, or provocation. They didn't take things personally, never reacted defensively, and seemed immune to the emotional triggers that ruled others. What disturbed Jung was that this wasn't emotional suppression or practiced detachment. These people had undergone a psychological transformation that rendered external behavior irrelevant to their inner state, granting them a rare kind of emotional freedom. One of Jung's most striking cases was a German businessman, let's call him Heinrich, who came to him in 1919. Heinrich wasn't suffering, but others were unsettled by his calmness. His wife, for example, once confessed an ongoing affair. Rather than explode, Heinrich simply asked if she was happy, whether she needed anything, and if she wanted to continue the marriage. Jung discovered Heinrich wasn't numb. He had learned to see his triggers as mirrors, what Jung later described as the shadow mirror effect. Every person who angers us is showing us something about our own unconscious. The rude coworker reflects our fear of inadequacy. The late friend reveals our need for control. The critical relative mirrors our self-doubt. Heinrich developed this insight after a brutal business betrayal. Instead of seeking revenge, he asked himself, "What part of me does this reflect?" His partner's greed mirrored Heinrich's own fear of poverty. His dishonesty revealed Heinrich's tendency to conceal emotions. His betrayal exposed Heinrich's own selfish impulses. By facing these hidden traits, Heinrich achieved what Jung called psychological immunity, a state where others' actions reveal more about themselves than about us. Jung later described this as the shadow integration protocol. When triggered, ask 3 questions. What trait in this person am I judging? Where do I show this trait myself, even subtly? What lesson is this trigger offering about me? Applied in daily life, this method transforms reactivity into insight. For example, Sarah, a marketing manager, was furious at her colleague Tom for constantly interrupting her. Using Jung's method, she realized she too sought attention when insecure. Owning this shadow softened her anger. Tom's interruptions no longer felt like an attack, just a reflection of his own insecurity. Through shadow work, Jung revealed a paradox. The less we fight our triggers, the freer we become. True strength is not in resisting anger, but in understanding what it mirrors within us. That's the essence of the shadow mirror, turning triggers into teachers. But Jung uncovered something even more unsettling. Those who achieved emotional impermeability had discovered a rare psychological space, the gap between stimulus and response. Heinrich once described it to Jung. When someone insults me, time slows down. Their words hang in the air and I can choose. Do I catch them and make them mine, or let them pass through me? Jung called this the reaction gap, a space where choice replaces automatic reaction. Most people experience trigger and response as one. But Jung's patience proved that with the right training, anyone could step into this gap and choose consciously. He developed the observer protocol, a deceptively simple but profound technique. Instead of reacting, you step back and observe, like watching a movie. You notice the words, body language, and even your own emotional stirrings without becoming them. Jung saw countless examples of this transformation. Maria, a teacher, stopped taking her principal's criticism personally. From the observer's position, she saw his stress, his pressure, his insecurity. Instead of reacting with anger, she responded with clarity and empathy. The key insight was this: you are not your emotions. You are the one observing them. Anger, fear, or hurt are information, not identity. You can examine them, act on them, or let them pass. Heinrich mastered this so deeply he felt transparent, as if negativity flowed through him like light through glass. He wasn't suppressing, it simply no longer defined him. But Jung also noticed the disturbing side of this ability. Those who reached it often lost interest in the drama that consumed most people. They no longer cared about being right, winning arguments, or proving themselves. This gave them immense inner power, but also set them apart from others, still trapped in reactivity. Jung outlined the observer protocol in 3 steps. Pause when triggered and take a conscious breath. Observe the trigger and your internal response without judgment. Choose an action based on values. not impulses. This wasn't about detachment or becoming emotionless. It was about authorship, choosing your responses instead of being ruled by them. Jung's research revealed another layer, what he called boundary fortresses. Unlike walls that shut people out physically, these were invisible psychological boundaries. They determined what could or couldn't disturb one's inner peace. As Heinrich explained, people can only disturb my peace if I give them permission. Their words, their actions, their emotions, these are external. They only become internal if I choose to absorb them. For Jung, this realization was revolutionary. Most people live with completely permeable boundaries, absorbing others' emotions, stresses, and projections. But those who built inner fortresses gained a profound freedom, the ability to decide what entered their psychological space and what passed harmlessly by. Those with emotional impermeability had mastered the art of building selective psychological barriers. Jung documented 3 main types of boundaries they developed. The first was the relevance filter, taking in only information that supported growth or goals, while letting everything else pass without attachment. The second was the ownership boundary, distinguishing their emotions from others. If someone was angry, they could see it as that person's anger rather than making it their own. The third was the identity fortress, a strong sense of self that kept criticism from shaking their core worth. Feedback became information, not judgment. But Jung noticed something troubling. People with strong boundaries often became magnets for those without them. Toxic personalities, emotional vampires, and unstable individuals were drawn to their stability. Heinrich, Jung's patient, saw this constantly. "Doctor, ever since I stopped reacting, people try harder to provoke me. My calm disturbs them more than my anger ever did." Jung realized this was because reactive people regulate themselves through others' reactions. When denied that, they're forced to face their own instability. To manage this, Jung outlined the boundary fortress method, built on 3 practices. Emotional firewall, decide beforehand which emotions you'll engage with, and which you'll simply observe. Response selection, pre-plan how you'll handle common triggers so you're guided by values, not impulses, identity anchor. Hold such a clear sense of self that others' opinions become data, not threats. David, a software engineer, used this method with his demanding boss. Each morning he set his emotional firewall, choosing not to absorb his boss's stress. He pre-selected calm, professional responses to criticism and rooted his identity in his skills, not his boss's approval. Within weeks, David felt untouchable. His boss's moods no longer controlled him, and even began treating him with newfound respect. Jung observed this paradox often. The stronger the boundary, the more others respect it. Yet Jung's most disturbing discovery involved what he called projection reversal. Emotionally immune individuals learn to see through attacks, recognizing them as windows into the attacker's psyche. Heinrich once demonstrated this after a rival called him a heartless profiteer. Instead of defending himself, Heinrich grew curious. This man's accusation tells me nothing about me and everything about him. His fear of heartlessness reveals his own insecurity. His obsession with profit shows financial anxiety. His appeal to workers exposes his guilt about how he treats his own. Jung realized this was a kind of psychological X-ray vision, seeing past surface attacks to the wounds beneath. He concluded that most human conflict isn't truly between people at all, but between the projections of their unresolved issues. Jung observed a striking pattern in human behavior. Criticism about your appearance often comes from those insecure about their own. Attacks on your success are usually born from frustration with personal failures. Judgments on your choices reflect doubts in the critic's own decisions. What disturbed Jung most was this. Once you learned to see these projections clearly, personal attacks lost their sting. Instead of reacting with anger, you began to feel compassion for the hidden pain driving others' hostility. As one patient explained, "Doctor, when someone attacks me now, I see a wounded child crying out. How can I be angry at a child in pain? Instead, I wonder what hurt them, and if I can help." This was the essence of psychological immunity. Seeing others' attacks not as truths about your worth, but as expressions of their own wounds. Jung formalized this into what he called projection reversal. It involved 3 questions. What quality are they attacking in me? Where might they struggle with this same quality? What pain or fear could be fueling their attack?
Consider Lisa, a skilled graphic designer who found herself devastated when a high-profile client dismissed her work as unprofessional. At first, the words felt like a personal attack, shaking her confidence and leaving her questioning her abilities. But instead of reacting impulsively or letting her anger fester, Lisa applied a principle Jung called projection reversal. She paused and asked herself, "They're attacking my professionalism, but where might they doubt their own?" Then a memory surfaced. The client had previously admitted to suffering from imposter syndrome, constantly fearing exposure as incompetent in their industry. In that moment, Lisa realized something profound. The criticism wasn't about her at all. It was a reflection of the client's own insecurities, a projection of their fear of being judged or exposed. This insight shifted her response entirely. She could now address their concerns calmly, professionally, and without sacrificing her inner peace or confidence. Yet, Jung warned that this kind of clarity carried its own hidden dangers. Seeing through the defenses, insecurities, and projections of others inevitably changed how one interacted with the world. Patients often described feeling like adults navigating a world full of wounded children. Like clarity and insight made human relationships both simpler and strangely isolating. The gift of psychological insight brought peace, but it also risked creating detachment from the emotional drama that consumes most people. Jung's challenge then was to teach his patients how to recognize and understand the pain in others without becoming cold or indifferent, a delicate balance of perception and compassion. From these studies emerged Jung's most unsettling and fascinating discovery: emotional alchemy. His patients weren't merely immune to being triggered, they had learned to transform every attack, insult, or provocation into fuel for personal growth. One patient explained it plainly, "Doctor, I no longer see difficult people as problems. They are teachers bringing me the lessons I need. The more someone can trigger me, the more valuable they are to my development." This perspective represented a radical reversal of ordinary human psychology. Most people instinctively avoid conflict and perceive difficult people as enemies. Jung's emotionally alchemic patients did the opposite. They actively sought out opportunities to confront their triggers, and they saw every adversary as an unconscious ally, someone offering raw material for inner transformation. Every insult, every act of criticism became a stepping stone for personal evolution. The process they followed was precise and deliberate. When faced with a triggering situation, they would ask themselves, "What is this person teaching me? What weakness am I being shown? What shadow aspect am I being forced to confront?" In doing so, every potential weakness was converted into strength. Every emotional challenge became a catalyst for mastery. From these observations, Jung arrived at a deeply disturbing conclusion. Individuals who mastered this approach became almost impossible to manipulate, control, or defeat emotionally. They had turned every attack into an opportunity for growth, what Jung called an alchemy of the psyche, where emotional pain itself becomes a source of gold. And yet this truth is one we can all sense intuitively. External validation cannot inflate us because we no longer need it. External criticism cannot break us because we have learned to extract lessons from it. Real strength isn't built from armor or suppression, but from transformation, the ability to alchemize challenges into wisdom. Jung articulated this emotional alchemy as a three-step process. First comes trigger mining, the careful extraction of insight from anyone or anything that disturbs your inner peace. Second is shadow integration, using the behaviors and actions of others as mirrors to recognize and heal your own hidden wounds. Finally, there is strength synthesis, the conversion of discovered weaknesses into lasting, actionable strengths. Consider Marcus, a sales manager perpetually frustrated by his team's laziness and excuses. Most managers would react with irritation or even anger. Marcus, however, applied emotional alchemy. He asked himself, "What are they teaching me? What weakness does this reveal in myself? What strength can I develop from this?" Through reflection, he realized that his frustration stemmed not from the team's shortcomings alone, but from his own failure to inspire them. Recognizing this, Marcus studied motivation psychology, learned to align with his team's personal goals, and transformed into one of the company's most effective leaders. What once triggered anger and resentment became the engine for his greatest professional growth. Yet Jung also warned of a shadow side. Those who master emotional alchemy can become detached, more observers than participants in human life. Heinrich, one of Jung's most advanced patients, admitted, "Doctor, I feel like I'm conducting experiments on human nature rather than living a human life." The danger lay in becoming emotionally superior at the expense of connection and invulnerability that risked turning into isolation. Jung understood that the ultimate goal was not invulnerability alone but anti-fragility, growing stronger, wiser, and more compassionate through every challenge. True emotional immunity required the acceptance of oneself, including both strengths and vulnerabilities. Only by embracing the totality of human experience could one achieve the delicate balance of power and compassion, resilience and humanity. Jung called the final stage compassionate immunity. At this level, emotional strength ceases to be a mere shield that protects oneself. It becomes a bridge, a tool to support and guide others without being consumed by their turbulence. Heinrich's transformation exemplified this principle. Initially, his unwavering calm unsettled those around him. His colleagues and even his family sometimes felt threatened by his lack of visible reactivity. But Jung guided him to a deeper understanding. Immunity is incomplete if it only serves to guard the self. True psychological mastery requires the capacity to engage with others' emotions without being overtaken by them. Heinrich gradually learned to hold space for the emotions of those around him. When his wife expressed frustration or disappointment, he could be fully present for her, listening attentively and validating her experience, yet without absorbing her distress into his own psyche. When employees brought complaints or challenges to him, he could attend to their concerns with patience and clarity, addressing their issues without letting their stress infiltrate his own calm. In doing so, he became what Jung called the compassionate warrior, someone capable of remaining unshaken in the midst of emotional turbulence while still offering care, understanding, and guidance to others. This stage reveals the paradox of ultimate emotional immunity. It does not require detachment from humanity, but a profound embrace of it. The compassionate warrior can feel others' pain without suffering, witness chaos without becoming chaotic, and offer support without depleting their own energy. Jung's observations led to the development of a technique I call emotional aikido, the art of redirecting the force of others' emotions instead of resisting or absorbing them. Anger becomes a force to drive solutions. Sadness transforms into compassion. Fear is alchemized into wisdom. Heinrich mastered this so completely that people naturally sought him out during their most difficult moments. His mere presence had the power to calm inner storms, not because he was detached or cold, but because he had achieved complete emotional mastery, feeling everything fully, yet controlled by nothing. In his final notes on Heinrich, Jung revealed what he considered the ultimate secret of psychological immunity, the ability to deeply love humanity while remaining untouchable by its chaos. This, Jung asserted, represents the pinnacle of human psychological achievement, a state where complete vulnerability exists alongside complete invulnerability. The businessman who once seemed simply unshakable became Jung's greatest case study, illustrating that true immunity is not about emotional coldness or distance. Rather, it is about cultivating such inner strength that one can remain warm, connected, and compassionate even amid the storms of others' emotions. Jung's broader discovery about people who never get angry revealed an even greater truth. Humans are not prisoners of their reactions. With consistent practice and self-awareness, anyone can cultivate a level of psychological immunity that keeps inner peace intact, regardless of external circumstances or the behavior of others. Heinrich's journey, from shadow integration through boundary fortresses, projection reversal, and emotional alchemy, to the ultimate stage of the compassionate warrior, represents the full arc of psychological development. Jung believed every human being has the potential to achieve. These timeless techniques retain their relevance today. The shadow mirror transforms triggers into teachers. The reaction gap creates a space to consciously choose every response. The boundary fortress protects the integrity of your inner world. Projection reversal exposes the underlying truth behind attacks. Emotional alchemy converts hardship into personal growth. And the compassionate warrior maintains humanity while achieving invulnerability. Jung's most disturbing insight was not merely that some people never get angry. It was the revelation of the vast, untapped psychological potential within every human being. The real question is not whether emotional immunity is possible. The question is whether you are ready to claim it for yourself. As Heinrich reflected in his final session with Jung, Doctor, I have learned that true strength is not about what cannot touch you. It is about what you can touch without being changed by it. Your journey begins here. Every trigger you encounter is a teacher. Every challenging person is a mirror reflecting aspects of yourself yet to be understood. Every hardship is an opportunity for transformation. The only person who can truly disturb your inner peace is the part of yourself you have not yet examined or embraced. Take Jung's disturbing yet liberating discovery and make it your guiding truth. You hold the power to cultivate a state of mind where no one can unsettle your core, where every emotional storm around you becomes an opportunity for growth and insight. Thank you for watching. See you in the next dimension.